passed. Try as they might, neither Humps nor Bladen could beat this record. The days of multiple world records in a week were over. Now every improvement would be a struggle. This is what happens when a category becomes extremely optimized. You have to fight for every inch. Finally, on September 4th, 2022, Humps did it. He beat the world record by 10 seconds.
Yes, dude! Let's go. Let's fucking go!
That might not sound like a lot compared to many of the game's previous world records, but you have to remember, Humps' last PB was a 32:23. So this was a personal best by over 30 seconds for him, which is a big deal. And because of how optimized the category had become, a 10-second world record was no easy feat. One extremely hard strat that debuted in this run was an even faster quick kill on the second Neon Green boss fight in the third temple. By shooting Green at every single possible opportunity, top players could defeat him before the second cycle had even ended, a 5+ cycle skip. This strategy is incredibly complex, and there are a lot of smaller strategies throughout the level that make this possible. Vinny has a great video on how to perform it, as well as backups if you miss any damage, which I'll include in the description. If you get it perfectly, you can beat the level in just under a minute. Strats are being performed now that left no margin for error, and even with that extreme level of difficulty, the balance between skill and consistency that this category had required never went away. The bar just kept getting set higher and higher. Humps was one of those players who had proven time and again that he had what it took to clear that bar. And now he was on top. His longtime rival, Azure, had seemingly retired from the Neon White speedrunning scene, having not streamed the game in over a month. There was nowhere left to go but up, and no one to challenge him. Well, almost no one. On September 12th, 2022, Bladen would come blazing back into the competition with a new PB of 31 minutes and 41 seconds. The thing about this run is, just a few hours later, Humps achieved a time of 31 minutes and 34 seconds. What's more, Bladen's PB also suffered a humiliating 22-second time loss in Trapwire. If it weren't for this time loss, they would have kept the world record. Heartbreaking, but Bladen wasn't done yet. Soon, they'd have a chance at redemption. Despite a tragic time loss due to a failure to set up Fast Mirror, Bladen made up all that time and more by cleaning up his time losses in Apocrypha. And though they missed 5+ cycle skip in Third Temple, they still got 5 cycle skip and played 1000-pound butterfly in Absolution beautifully. With this record, the sub 31 minute barrier stood just 25 seconds away. It was no longer a matter of if it would be broken, but when. Both Humps and Bladen were determined to do it. And both were so evenly matched that it seemed like either of them could take the record at any moment. So the real question was, who would be the first? Once again, weeks passed, as Bladen's record stayed on top. 2 weeks turned into 3, then 4, then a month. The White's Heaven Rush record was so difficult to beat now, that even with Humps actively running the game, he couldn't shave those 11 seconds. Bladen had been live just once, since September 17th. No one else had risen up as a world record contender. It seemed that, after months of multiple records within weeks of each other, Neon White had finally reached its dry spell. Records would be few and far between now, but whenever someone did get a record, it would be a momentous occasion. 2 seconds. It had taken a month for the record to be beaten, and Humps only lowered it by 2 seconds. If that's not a sign of how optimized this game was now, I don't know what is. Unfortunately, Humps didn't record this run, as he was not proud of it. However, we do have proof that the record existed, thanks to a screenshot posted in the Discord, as well as a few of his live stream VODs in which the record shows up. As such, I will include it in the timeline, despite the lack of video proof. Like all of Humps' previous world records, this run would only last a short while, 9 days to be exact. Though he had twice been the player to end a large world record drought, it seemed the poor man was cursed to never have a world record last for more than a week at a time. The last several world records had all been small ones. It had been a long time since we'd seen a dramatic record cut, and it didn't look like we'd see one again. But if either Humps or Bladen could beat the world record by at least 25 seconds, they could get the first sub 31 in one fell swoop. With how optimized the category was now, it would take a miracle. But heaven is where miracles are made, and on October 28th, 2022, Bladen would do this. Bladen had just achieved the largest world record the game had seen since Humps' 32:47 nearly 3 months ago. In the process, they'd shattered the coveted 31-minute barrier and joined Humps and Tacky in the exclusive group of players who broke 2-minute barriers in a row. Simply put, this run was incredible. Bladen saved time nearly everywhere. They did make one big mistake on Cleaner, the 3rd level of Burn That Cures, due to an unfortunate bonk on the wall. But that was it. By far the highlight of this run was Benediction. Bladen entered this world 2.5 seconds behind their PB and left it 22.5 seconds ahead, thanks to near flawless play throughout and a gold split on Mirror to redeem his last PB's failed fast mirror setup. After that, he had a beautiful Apocrypha, got 5+ cycle skip, nailed all of the hard 1,000-pound butterfly strats including Congregation Seam skip and Marathon skip, and closed it out with an amazing Absolution. With this run, the White's Heaven Rush world record now stood just 53 seconds away from its final frontier, the ultimate goal, sub 30 minutes. Bladen's Sob was now in the 2940s, so it was technically possible for them to get it. But playing a minute off Sob was hard enough. 15 seconds off Sob simply wasn't doable yet. Still, it was possible. We just have to wait a little bit longer. Bladen decided to take a break from Neon White speedrunning after this run, and who could blame them? They were 30 seconds ahead of anyone else. But Humps had been behind by more than 30 seconds before, and he had always managed to catch up and surpass the world record. He'd just have to do it again. It didn't take long for Humps to catch up. He got the second ever sub 31 with a 30:56 on November 12th. And after about a month of grinding, on December 5th, 2022, Humps would do this.
Holy fuck!
This world record was the first in the game's history to use Level Rush's shuffle feature. When turned on, the levels are shuffled into a random order that changes every time you reset the run. The feature is useful when runners are trapped in so-called reset hell. By turning on shuffle, they can play some of the later levels in the game much earlier in the run, which is helpful both for continuing runs and getting some of the harder levels out of the way early. However, this comes with the downside of having to do the risky early game strats much later in the run, where a mistake can mean much more progress lost. Playing in shuffle order also means you have to play without splits, which means we can't tell how much time Humps lost this run, or whether he was on track for an even better pace early on. One thing anyone who watches this run with their own eyes can tell was that this was extremely clean. This was the first world record that didn't have a significant mistake or a forced reset. All the mistakes were small. With this run, Humps would end yet another month-long record from Bladen. Bladen had 3 world records that lasted more than a month, but this time it would finally be Humps' turn to have a long-standing record. It would be a long time until this record was beaten, but on January 11th, 2023, one of the most important runs in Neon White speedrunning would take place. And it wasn't a record. It wasn't even a PB. It was Bladen's run at Awesome Games Done Quick 2023.
Alright, what's up? I'm Bladen, and this is Neon White.
For those who don't know, Games Done Quick is a speedrunning charity marathon that has been running since 2010. They get tens of thousands of viewers every year, and each of their events since 2017 has raised well over $2 million for charity. Games Done Quick hosts 2 events every year. Awesome Games Done Quick in January, which gives its proceeds to the Prevent Cancer Foundation, and Summer Games Done Quick in June or July, which gives its proceeds to Doctors Without Borders. Normally, their events are in person, but Games Done Quick hosted online events between SGDQ 2020 and AGDQ 2023 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, with only SGDQ 2022 being in person. Though Bladen's run started at half past midnight EST, not exactly prime time for GDQ viewership, their main stream had 55,000 viewers when the run took place. Bladen would go on to achieve a time of 34 minutes and 44 seconds. Far from their PB, but pretty solid for a no reset of such a difficult game.
There we go.
They suffer from meltdowns on Clock Tower,
And Green's dead. and, oh no!
I actually missed him. Okay.
Burn That Cures, Reckoning, and Apocrypha, but had great early game and late game segments, as well as a strong Covenant and Benediction. My personal highlight of the run was when Bladen suffered an unfortunate mishap on Trip Track, missing an enemy during their pass through the level, then proceeded to find the enemy they missed and snipe them from all the way across the map.
Alright, moving on.
While this incredible run at the world's biggest charity speedrunning marathon seemed like it was going to usher in a new era of Neon White speedrunning, sadly, the opposite happened.